All right, it says I am live. So now waiting on the girls to get here. How's everybody doing? Happy Sunday. Uh, Kay, AJ. Let's see. I'm live, ladies. Hopefully, ladies will get on. So today we're going to be talking to you guys a little bit more about who we are, the Genius Induction Playground. And we had some topics that we thought might interest everybody because of the things that we have been posting about and the responses that we've been getting. So we figured it would be good to go ahead and bring this to the live stream area and see if we can just talk a little bit about these things, and then, people can play it back whenever they want. It'll always be here for them. I don't know if you guys have been following us, because, since this is my channel, my YouTube channel, we've been posting a lot on both Instagram and Facebook, and TikTok as well. Just a lot of our affirmations and things that have been helping us with this new endeavor that we created, the Genius Playground, the Genius Induction Playground. Just tapping a little bit in our into our genius minds and pulling out the things that are really truly meant for us to be utilizing during our lifetime. It's not just meant for people with high IQs. So this is what we're here to talk about today. Let's see. Let me send a message to them. Hopefully they'll be in here. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a Sunday, so just bear with us. But anyway, and let me pull up my YouTube just in case there are comments or anything that I need to see. I can't see from my StreamYard screen, so let me open up my YouTube, guys. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, there it is. Let me, am I in? Gotta log in the right one. Let's see what happens. There's Kay.
How are you?
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. Let's see. Okay. I can hear you. I think I had my volume down. You can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. How are you?
Good.
Good. You look pretty.
It's Sunday morning.
Yeah, it is. Is that a blue background?
It's a blue wall, yeah.
Yeah. It matches your hair.
This room has 3 versions of blue in it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, most of the rooms we have in our house like to put color in, but
I like that.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm just making sure I can see us on YouTube because from here I can't. I don't know how I'm going to be able to monitor. Maybe if I log into another, I won't be able to see like if people are here chatting. I thought it would. You know what I mean? I thought it would. But I have to log in from my other YouTube channel in order to see the chat. So that's what I'll do. So let me turn it down so you can't hear me.
Okay,
there it is. So yeah, I was just telling everybody, basically, we're gonna, be doing a continuation from the posts that we had been putting out. And there's AJ.
Hey.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wonderful. I've stopped hiding the fact that I sit on the floor. I used to hide that in
Okay.
my recordings, but I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
I sit, dude.
Yeah. Believe me, there are a lot of people who do that. So how is everybody this morning?
Good.
It's early for you guys.
It's okay. All right.
Yeah.
I just feel like there've been so many shifts for us these last few days that I had an opportunity through an activity that was on my kind of to-do list to really step into the gratitude of the men in my life. In particular, some men that I don't typically think of.
Yeah.
So that was really beautiful to have that synchronicity as we're stepping into this.
Yeah.
I love that. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? So let's just feel into it.
Good. Yeah.
For me personally, a lot of people know that I am, cohabitating with the boy's dad, and we have a really good co-parenting relationship. Um, it hasn't always been that way, you know, but like just through effort. And I had to admit, I've been doing some manifesting, and not everybody looks at manifesting the same way, but for people in my old world, so to speak, before I left my religion, it's basically, I had been really prayerful about things going the way I need them to go so that we can have the peace. But you can't pray for something like that and then behave another way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of effort there. I can tell on both our parts, and it's just turned out beautiful for the kids.
That's great that you're noticing him stepping into that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
It's definitely a blessing. Not everybody has that blessing. And when you put the work in, that's the kind of thing that I like to talk about. And what I've been posting a lot about is manifesting, because that's what's been a huge part of my life lately. And by doing that, I just want to, I want everybody to see how they can make that, happen in their lives as well. Manifestation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I want to hear what you guys have to say.
I really like, July, the point that you're making about what you want and then acting another way. And you ladies know, and we'll share this for the audience, that if the tears come as I'm talking, it's a
Yeah.
reflection of the love coming in.
Yeah.
That was something that always happened as a kid, and I was so embarrassed by it, and now I lean into it. Because those are the epiphanies that are really constantly nudging me these last few days, is like, stepping into this idea of the role that I serve in the purpose work and the path that's revealing itself to me. Okay, leveling up. If I really think that I'm going to be this this rock, this stability for other people coming to me who need help and facilitation, okay, then I have to be acting a certain way. And not in a limiting judgment, it can only look one way. Not that at all, but like in terms of updating my own habits and allowing that new version of me to come in. I can't want that new version of me and have the same old thought patterns and kind of subversive behaviors. I'll give you a perfect example. I've been doing a lot of really healthy body intake. I've been very mindful of what I've been consuming the last few days. Last night came off of a really fantastic evening and then was hungry right before bed. And the old habit was, well, I can have a bowl of cereal, which is the grain in the milk that I haven't been eating because I've been so good lately. And it was like a moment where it was like, okay, but are you all in on this?
Yeah.
Because you know what that cycle creates.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I love these shares. And you know what? You mentioned something when you first started talking about it that I wanted to touch on. I should have wrote it. I should have written it down. Let me think. What did you say? Um, but like, I'm just hoping that, when people tap into this, they can relate this to a lot of the experiences that they have, because, we're normal just like everybody else to a certain extent. And, just like the things that we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis is, you know, typical stuff. But with the Genius Induction Playground, we're here to try to like help people integrate all of those things with the inside, the genius part of them that we all possess, that will help them to deal with these things in a way that makes life so much more easier. You know, and I think it has a lot to do with us being able to not only, well, it's a huge deal communicating with each other, like the same way we are having interactions, but people being able to do this at home. But before that, you have to be able to internalize these things by acknowledging them from inside. And AJ, you did a really great job with that in your last YouTube video. I was
Yeah.
so impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I finally got to watch it. Thank you.
Did
AJ.
you? How did
It
you?
worked. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Okay.
I loved how you shared your personal experience, like your very personal experience. And I was like, wow. At first I thought, I don't know if I could share that. But then I thought how powerful it was to hear that, because then I could think of other things about me, experiences that I had of my own that related to what you were saying. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And this is beautiful because the meditation that I had about 20 minutes ago was on these very parts. July, when you're mentioning, what we're going through, the thought that came in outside was show them how we got here,
Mm.
because it might look really admirable for me to share. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a YouTube video on my channel about what it feels like to be the person fixating on another individual that isn't the person of my romantic relationship, and that kind of cognitive and emotional tension. And I would not have this trio that we have established, this safe space, empowered me to feel safe to do that. Knowing that we have had our meditations together where not only I, but you two as well have also received, we are protected, we are guided, we need to lean into the light, everything is going to work out, helped put to sleep the concerns of the what ifs. That was my life like 5 years ago, that I'm sure you ladies also used to live a life of what ifs.
And I'm going to put the link in here. Do you mind if I put the link to your video?
Please go ahead. And then also, I think in the description at some point, if you can tag my channel, it's my full name with no spaces.
Okay. All right.
And then I think that shows up. I also sometimes sit on a pillow. So
Yeah. That's totally fine.
Profile too, to your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
say that again, Kay.
So Kay, how do you want to share with everybody? Like, I love that AJ said we may want to start talking to people about how we got to the space where we, start to feel a little bit more comfortable with the things that I would say maybe like talk about or post.
Yeah.
The things that we write.
Yeah. So lately what I've been working on is about safety.
Yeah.
And it's the first step that I took, realizing that most of our adult lives, most of the adults that we are encountering have this switch set in their brain. We all have it, but we have it set to safe or unsafe. It's that most people like to call it the limbic or the fight or flight or safety. And so I always try to put cool music to the video, and I found the safety dance. Do you guys remember that?
Yes, I do.
And so I put that song, and the video got a lot of traction. But what I heard intuitively was to share my path, just like AJ shared about her relationships, her connections, and how she thinks internally while she's dealing with the emotions of it all. And what I heard was share your path and how I think internally about how my healing happened, because I used to work with a lot of men, and I call it hustling for approval. I used to use the F word a lot. I used to, work in construction. So I thought, this is cool. I'll be cool. I'll be one of the guys. But then I still was me. And so I didn't quite fit in, like,
Mm.
and so that's just been the story of my life, is not fitting in. And I learned that when you're that way, that you're trying to fit in with people, that it can have to do with your safety switch. Like
Mm.
you're trying to get approval from other people, and not necessarily self-love. So when I learned to switch that safety from I don't feel safe to I feel safe, then I learned that um, I could actually love myself and feel safe wherever I was. I could hear very clearly if intuitively I wasn't safe. Like you hear those stories, you get into an
Mhm.
elevator and you shouldn't have gotten into the elevator. Those I can hear my intuition loudly, but I
Mhm.
can also share it with others and help them, what I call, not waste time
Mhm.
spending time trying to be friends with everybody when really you just want to be loved. I know
Yeah.
that's woo woo and it's not very manly, but uh, I was all
No.
love when I worked with men, and sometimes it got misconstrued as I was attracted to them. Like I would hear
Mhm.
things like oh and recoil, because I'm also married and I always wanted to be loyal. And I've also had thoughts about men I've worked with, and I've not known how to handle it. But I love how you put it, AJ, the
Mhm.
fixed part. So I think we all three have these dialogues that have gone on in our minds for years, and we've come to the conclusion that spiritually, energetically, electrically, however you want to call it, we're
Mhm.
we're impacted by the people around us, and we're impacted by the thoughts we have, and we're ready to show the world, hey, life can be full of joy and bliss, and you don't have to try to get everybody to accept you. You can just be you, and it'll
Mhm.
be amazing how accepted you feel when you cross that threshold.
It's really funny that you mentioned the guy friendships, because this was a narrative I had always told myself in one way, and it only recently shifted in the last like 10 days. So I don't know if you ladies know this, but until I was about 15, I did not like my name, Alexis.
Uh,
My middle name was private, and my last name was a different last name because I wasn't married. I actually, across the board, was Lex.
hmm,
Oh.
And I loved that it was this very masculine, androgynous name.
Mhm.
All of my friends in elementary school, I told myself for years all my friends were guys, but looking back on photos, I did have some girlfriends in Girl Scouts and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, but especially into middle school, it was all guys. And I used to wear that as a badge of honor of like,
Mhm.
look, I can be accepted.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like at the expense of complete rejection of the femininity within me. Rejecting how I saw femininity showing up. Basically, like I remember, it was out at the middle school. The lunch cafeteria was outside because it was San Diego,
Okay.
and like walking to the different groups and trying to fit in with the female groups, and just seeing the schemas or the personas of how they showed up, and the oh
Mhm.
my god, and like this feigned interest in things you don't care about. I'm like, that is not me. At least with the
Exactly.
guys, I can be real.
Yeah.
And it very rarely transcended into crushes with these guys. They were just complete safe. Like,
Mhm.
I think a couple of them for a very long time, I didn't even think of them as like sexual, like
Yeah.
their own right. They were
Yeah.
just these really, really safe guys.
Right.
Um, and but what that did was it taught me at a very deep level. I have to be over here to be like
Mhm.
I have to be over here to be accepted. I can't be here. And so it's been a returning back
Mm.
to my name, my full name, the fact that I am a woman.
Mhm.
The word mom felt really foreign to me for a very long time. I don't know
Yeah.
about you ladies.
Yeah,
Mom
me
and
too.
wife were not words I liked.
Yeah. I was like, who's mom? Am I mom? Yeah.
see? Yeah.
No, those are really I can relate to that a lot growing up. I'm the only girl. I have two brothers. And I loved when my older brother would have like his friends over and all that. And I always, you usually look up to your older siblings. So I played with them a lot. I hung out with them a lot. And then it did like carry over into me enjoying the company of males more than I did the company of females. Just like going through certain phases in my life, there was a lot less drama and a lot more safe space.
Isn't that
Right?
funny? And now here we are as like a trio, like creating
Yeah,
safe
no,
space.
I love it. I love it. And I think that that's something that we should talk about more too, elaborating on that safe space, because that is what I noticed that started to like gain a lot of traction with people, is that that's all we all really want. It's
Mhm.
just a safe space, right?
Yeah. That was so sweet when you said that the other night. I really want to be safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel safe.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, we all live on this planet together, so we're all gonna rub shoulders, and it feels good when we have people around us that we can literally feel safe with. And sometimes, due to the nature of the circumstances, whether it's work or in the home or just whatever else outside of those, when we're around the opposite sex, there are different things that, like you ladies mentioned, that we, internalize. And being able to be comfortable with that and actually talk about it and be open about it, I think creates a whole new, like, energetic space for people
Mhm.
to just start to explore that, hey, they're normal like me. They have normal thoughts like me, and it doesn't mean anything. Just like I posted something on TikTok that said, just because I support you and like your videos, it doesn't mean that I like you. Like you, like want to be with you. Like
Mhm.
people misconstrue that a lot in life. They think that because you are being nice, or you do have a certain attraction to them, like their personality or some form of creativity that they're displaying,
Mhm.
that you want, they misunderstand your intentions a lot,
Have you
right?
have you noticed that you started doing your like your spiritual work or your energy work, that when you moved into self-love and self-acceptance and you had like a practice where you were working on you, that
Mhm,
you showed up more authentically and showed more love to more people,
mhm.
but it got misconstrued less? Like,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
want to expand on that, but I think it's also important. I feel like some phrases we're going to use are used
Mhm.
in the broader culture in a very different way. And
Okay.
mhm,
one of the novelties that we bring is a whole deeper, authentic understanding to what that is. So I do want to talk about that, Kay. But can we pause and define for people what we mean by safe space? Because here's
Yeah.
where I'm coming at it from. I'm coming at it from I remember phases in my life where I was very much externalizing, meaning I was seeking rules and how to's and step by steps from other people on
Mhm.
what specific actions I needed to take, how I needed to talk about people or talk to people, or coded language I needed to use to indicate that I was a safe individual. And I feel like for me in my journey, all that did was tear me apart and put me in all these different floating spheres of navigating landmines.
mm,
Mm.
And it was like I would read one person's piece. It's like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. And then of course, like everyone has a different thought. So someone else has a different piece. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Mhm.
And that's like the most disempowering space to come from. And I don't
Mhm.
think that that's what we're talking about here. So
Right.
how I define the safe space that we create is like the complete opposite of that. Like we
Mhm.
each have trust that we're responsible for our own emotions, actions, reactions, boundaries.
mhm,
Yeah.
And I'm not going to and this is a big step for me, I'm not going to feel bad for overstepping somebody's boundary just
Mhm.
because it gets to a point where they have articulated their boundary. Like, I'm
Mhm.
going to assume it's a safe space and that I
Mhm.
can take up this amount of space
Mhm.
sometimes until someone says, "Hey, this is the boundary we're working with." And then I go, "Oh, okay." So then I'll
Mhm.
adjust, and now we've got 2 boundaries we're working with. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it as different. It's less about me meeting a checklist of, have I crossed all the T's? Have I made it safe for all these different groups? And
Mhm.
more about like, look, I will connect with you intimately and personally and privately and authentically and honor how you show up.
Mhm.
Mm. Wow.
So how does it feel different for you ladies, kind of how it's been talked about in the culture? Because we all know over the last 10,
Yeah.
15 years and like how we're doing it differently.
Mm.
Do you want to go first, Kay, or okay? Yeah. Kay's like, not at all. No. No, it's okay. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Those are all valid points and
Mhm.
good questions. This is the only way I can answer that is just by, and this is me all across the board all the time, 100% of the time. I just act in the moment
Mhm.
and I trust myself in the moment
Mm,
because everything about me is if you want to call it spontaneous, it's never planned. I never have any like I would say expectations,
Mhm.
and I don't ever, the only thing if I were to plan anything about how I'm going to interact with anybody, it's always just making sure that I'm aligned, like within, you know? So
Mhm.
it's difficult for me when I meet people who like I talk to you ladies about, who have like agendas, because even though I am the way I am, where I can read into things if I wanted to, I don't read into things. That's just not my personality. I don't read into not unless I'm like really interacting with someone and um you know there's a need for it. But other than that, when it comes to, like either meeting people or hanging out with people or, having, starting some sort of relationship, I'm always like, if you want to call it playing it by ear or just, just kind of like going along with the flow. I get a feel for the energy that feels right.
Mhm.
If I don't feel like I have to like ball up like a little basketball bug in my shell, then I know that I can continue to proceed being myself. I noticed that there are a lot of people, and I'm not saying that that's good or bad. There are a lot of people who aren't comfortable enough with transparency.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so sometimes they become a little introverted when it comes to people like me. Did you guys see what I wrote about cats?
Mhm.
How I love cats. I said, I love animals and animals love me. I said, except cats, because when I get excited and I see them, they stop like a deer in headlights. And then when they see how excited I'm being, they flee. And I said, sometimes people do too,
That.
because I'm just being myself. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
I can only be who I am. I can't hide who I am.
That was such a great, we have friends in our community that my husband likes to say we're the X-Men school because we've all
Yeah.
got these different gifts. We have a mutual friend that can like connect with the spirit of my animals, and I know July you can do that as well.
Um,
Um, and I think Kay, you can do that as well. I mean, we all
yeah.
do this to extents, but the way that her gift comes through is a very clear, potent, like word for word dialogue that she's able to
Oh,
relay back.
yeah.
And it's really been a reminder for me that the animals are just in the moment completely, right? And so when
Mhm.
she's talking to one of my animals about how the other animal in the house does or does not want a particular kind of interaction, that first animal is literally like, "This is who I am."
Yeah. Oh,
It's
wow.
not like, "Oh, it didn't occur to me that someone wouldn't like who I am. This is who I am. What am I supposed to do?" Like,
Right.
it
Oh,
they
wow.
don't have a filter they can, like the way that humans, like, "Okay, I'll put myself in this box because it has to meet their demands." The animals, like, at least that animal, is
Yeah.
just, like, doesn't even occur to them.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, unapologetically themselves. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, there was a cat that was in my backyard the other day, and I'm just gonna say it was a she. I'm thinking she was pregnant. She was all tucked away in the bushes, and of course, I got excited. I'm looking through my patio door. I got so excited that I made her like wake up and look at me, and she just stared at me the same way I just described. She stared at me. She heard my voice. But I'm like, I think that something's going on with her. I guess she was, I couldn't tell if she was like injured or pregnant or what, but she just finally like curled back up and then, went back to sleep. And I'm like, wow, this is sometimes how it is with our interactions with people. Instead of, imposing when it comes to, our energies and or wanting to force something, you know, allowing them to have that safe space is sometimes needed, because not everybody is like us. And I think that what you just described, AJ, I think a lot of people feel like that, I'm just me. Why can't you just accept me for who I am? And even if that means you're not a safe space for me.
Yeah. Hey, I'm showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that I'm a mix of a little bit of both of you, and I could hear my present version of me. So that's funny because not we're always changing, right? But
Yeah.
I used to kind of watch what was going on, and then I would try to, you know, quietly. Usually, I'd have a smile on my face, just kind of watching interactions of other people, and usually, if it was
Yeah.
at, it would be a lot of men. I'm just watching them interact, and
Yeah.
trying to figure out how I can't get poked. Like, you know how when you have brothers, we all have brothers, and if you have bruises, and if you show your brother, hey, I got a bruise here, and the next thing you know, poke.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's what it's like for me. My brother's pretty physical. I have three brothers, and I always considered myself a tomboy.
Yeah.
Parents wanted the girly girl. I was pretty tomboyish because it was fun.
Yeah.
You
Me
could
too. I think
do,
all three of us were.
yeah,
My brother was 4 years older than me, and let me tell you,
Yeah.
like, the moment that the clothes he outgrew the clothes, they were on my body.
Yeah.
There was just something about, like, how it looked that I was like, "I wanna emulate that."
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
yeah. So I remember like with what July said about being in the moment, how you're
Mhm.
present and how
Mhm.
that's really how you are now. And I find myself more and more like that. And especially if I'm in a conversation with a guy. Um,
Yeah.
and I just worked with a fellow to help his manager become the best version of himself. Well, that's
Mhm.
my take on it. His take on it was I was going to help his manager do the best job ever. And
Oh.
so it was a little bit of a misalignment, but I would find myself in these conversations with him where he would be very energetic. I imagine him being
Yeah.
the same about cats as you are. Kind of this, I don't know, a bird.
Yeah.
And so he would like go after stuff and he would get on these tangents and I would stand there and I would start to feel a little bit like, this again. And then I would remember, in alignment, I would be standing there in a place of love. I'm like, sometimes I would just stand there. I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, I used to like make fun of people like this, or I used to be like, poke their bruises, but now I stand there and go, okay, so what does love feel like in this moment for this person? And then I start to wrap them in love, like,
Mhm.
my brain to them so that they feel accepted and loved, because I know I feel accepted and loved, and I'm not concerned about how they feel about me. I'm more concerned about how they're feeling in that moment with us together making that connection.
Wow.
It's a weird twist for me because it used to be like this. Like, I would work with a guy named Daniel, and we would just get away from these people, like 5 guys, and we would be working with this foreman named Cindy, who she'd clean up all of our shit before we were done with our work. Like, where's that tool? Oh, Cindy must have put it away. And we'd just be like, meh, 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 about Cindy. And we were never nice about well, I wouldn't say I wasn't nice, but the talk about Cindy was horrible when Cindy wasn't present. And I know everybody's had those situations, but I would, be off with Daniel, and we'd be putting up some conduit or running some wire somewhere. And he would be like, you didn't say anything about Cindy. And one day I said, Daniel, if I say something about Cindy, there's 2 things in my mind right now. If I say something about Cindy, then I'm bad mouthing somebody when they're not there. And it only turns my heart black. Doesn't do anything to her, it just turns my heart black. And the other thing is if I'm listening to you talk about Cindy when she's not around, then I'm asking myself, are you talking about me when I'm not around? So those are how I used to interact with men, like besides effort all the time. But I never quite fit in exactly because I wasn't one of the gang, I learned that in language, that you can code switch or you could use words and you can become part of this group. But what you're doing when you're doing that is you're excluding other people right away. And that's the goal, is we're going to have this camaraderie, but those other people aren't going to feel included, and we're going to feel all cool and they're not. And so I remember those situations in what I would call my past life. But now more than ever, I'll stand in that place with that man or that woman and listen to what they're saying and just remind myself in alignment, what is being in a place of love, not in love, like, oh, I just want to grab this person and hug all over him, in a place of love for them. And it usually entails like just layering them with just love energy, like rainbows and unicorns. Like I used to work with this guy, and he would, every other word was the F word, and I loved working. His name was Chuck, and he would say, it's not F and rainbows, it's not F and juju berries. I almost said it. It's not F and unicorns. It's not. And so I sit there, and it is for me. It's rainbows and unicorns and juju berries and love. So it's a new alignment for me, but I think it's similar to what my old alignment was. It's just I have more self-love.
That's beautiful. No, I love that. I see we have a comment here, and I'm wondering if you ladies want to address that.
You might be the only one who can see it.
Oh, okay. You guys can't see the comments.
I see it. I can see the comments.
Yeah, and I'm like, really, since we're talking about creating a safe space, mostly what I was thinking about had a lot. Oh, you can see it. Okay.
Oh, the haircut? I would love to address this.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, AJ. I know, it reminds me of the video you had on Facebook.
I have buzzed my hair multiple times. I started, so this might not be addressing what this comment, because the comment is asking, what do you think about it, and what do you think of it as a trend? And I'm not going to speak of it as a trend. I'm going to speak of it as what it was for me, and tell some really funny stories that relate to my experiences playing with this, like, masculine, feminine. So I was really blessed with parents that are like, do what you want to your hair, you get straight A's, you're good.
Yeah.
So I went completely black. I had long hair and it was completely black. I looked very Irish. And then as it was growing out, I cut it short. It was the first time I had a short cut. And then this was the early 2000s. So there was like this punk rock like look where it was buzzed hair with like bangs in the front. And I did that. I was 16 and I had buzzed hair with bangs in the front. And what's really funny is that I did end up looking a lot more like my brother, who I idolized. And so that was like, it pulled out the masculine. I'm just like going to take a moment and ground and make sure that I'm telling this in the way it needs to be told. Because I'm like,
take your time.
Yeah. And I remember at the time, my friend and I did this, and she was my best friend. She lived across the street. She was Mexican. She was the youngest of 4, so she had 3 older brothers. And she had this long, curly, thick hair that I think at that time she had finally been allowed to cut it short. And, so my dad had, like, a beard trimmer, and so we did this at home, just, like we just did it in the backyard of my house, like this house,
Yeah.
and we buzzed it, and my parents were like, "Eh," and her parents, did not like that, and her
Oh,
dad
really?
you know, that lesbian's not allowed over here, and, like, all
Mm,
sorts of assignments about me because of the hair, and that was really the beginning of years and years of, um actually, it wasn't the beginning because I had been
mhm,
misgendered in elementary school and, you
mhm,
know, wearing my brother's clothes, wearing my
mhm.
brother's clothes, being called a guy, being assertive on the playground, and kind of, like, laughing at the people who got it wrong. I I was in a very, like, superior space, like,
Yeah.
"You idiots, like, clearly." And then
Yeah.
so when this happened with the hair, that began the beginning of people questioning my sexuality.
Mhm.
And, so it grew out, and I always thought I was very boy crazy, like, it was never ambiguous to me.
Yeah.
And then in my freshman year in college, in the dorms, it was St. Patrick's Day because the joke I say is that I got drunk on a pint of ice cream and I buzzed my head. And there was a guy that actually had a razor, and I went all the way down, I bicked it. I went completely bald.
Wow.
And it was always like this was before I had tattoos, but the mindset was always kind of fun watching people's reactions and then going like, "Guys, it's just hair. Like, it'll be back in a year." Like, it's not like it's tattoos, it's not permanent, it's not this
Okay.
big deal, and then I've buzzed it, I've bicked it a couple other times. My husband helped bick it with a straight edge razor,
Yeah.
and I got a scar on the back of my head from that because he was like, it was a
Oh,
straight edge.
oh,
Um,
man.
and it just for me, what I noticed was that there were, like, 2 me's. There was the me
Mhm.
with the buzzed hair and the shorts and the tank top that were revealing all the tattoos that I had, and when that version of me walked into a hardware store, my questions got answered in a very direct, helpful manner, was what I noticed. The version of me with long blonde hair and a skirt and,
Yeah.
a form-fitting top who walked into, a hardware store. Let's just say there was one time where I actually called a dude a condescending prick, and my husband was right there, and I'm holding my, like, year and a
Yeah.
half old baby, and my husband's like, "What just happened?" And it was because I knew if I showed up a certain way into this space, I would be treated in a very direct manner, and I
Mhm.
felt like I was being treated in a very different way because of how I was showing up, and I was
Mhm.
just calling him on his bullshit because they
Mhm.
just assume that I don't know what's going on, which I
Right.
think relates to my baggage of, like, announcing I have a PhD every chance I get,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, let me legitimize myself for you in your eyes.
Yeah.
Um, but I so when very grateful for this question. I'm also very mindful that this kind of question in lots
Mhm.
of different settings feels to me like it is asking a group of individuals, us,
Mhm.
to judge or validate another group of individuals who are engaging in an activity that we have no context for their intentions with that activity.
Mhm.
So, like, fundamentally, my answer is like, if people are enjoying it, people are enjoying it. And
Mhm.
Mm.
is it really a fad? Is it just being shown more now? Are more people more willing to opt into something that they've always wanted to enjoy, that they feel safer to do? That's how like human variability exists on all spectrums and all actions across the board everywhere. So if
Yeah.
we're going to like, if this is like the bell curve, you can't see the distribution of the bell curve of like, most people perform here, but there are people performing out here on any, income, looks, height, um, outgoingness, shyness, whatever it is. This is the bell curve. That's the normal distribution, right? Most people are
Mhm.
up here. There's a lot of people here, and there are very few people on the fringe. And then so this kind of question feels like it's asking, hey, let's like attend to only the fringe without
Mhm.
acknowledging that there always exists a
Mhm.
fringe.
They added
Mhm.
something else to the chat. They talked about
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
that they're
He
having about? So they're asking about a specific person.
Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. I just went and hold
He
it.
No,
told me,
no, it's fine. I think it was good for the conversation.
yeah,
He
totally.
was saying that his aunt, it was a personal experience with his aunt. She went through a divorce for the buzz cut look, and while she was like a lady that was soft spoken and cute, she changed to a confident but also very serious and somehow cold kind of person.
So in that experience for me, it was like maybe, I mean, I can't speak for what she was in, but again, noticing how I was treated in the different spaces. It's really funny that culturally we think of Britney Spears as like
Yeah.
this instance of can't get through something, gonna make this big change, because her struggle was a very public struggle and it involved shaving her head. But there were at least 1 or 2 instances for me where it was like, um, in fact, yeah, the last one especially, I had just gotten a job in biotech. It was my first job in industry after leaving academia. A lot of aspects of my identity had changed. And then I stepped into this business world where I thought there were a bunch of rules I felt like I needed to navigate because it was my first at-will employment. I mean, like
Yeah.
academia is like a 5-year thing, a 2-year thing, you know how long you're there. And then it was like at-will employment. I was like, fuck, I could get fired any minute. That was the stress I had. And about a month into it, I did show up at work one day with just a buzzed head because it was just like, I didn't do it because Britney Spears had done it. It's not that I had learned the pattern from her, but I did very much feel like I need a change. I need to show these people I can be somebody different. And the act of it was like, also like, it's not about you, it's about me. Like it very much turned it like, oh, you like my hair? Oh, you think I'm beautiful? Like whatever. Like I'm gonna intentionally choose something that I know that other people are gonna judge as a way to put up a wall and say, back the fuck off. This is my shit to deal with. I don't want you in this space.
Mm.
And I did feel empowered from it, and now I feel that I mean, the fact ladies, the fact that my hair is this long, it hasn't been this long in 10 years. This is the empowered space for me right now, is to lean into the feminine and have long hair. Because I felt more comfortable with those walls up. To me, were walls. To
Yeah.
other people might not be walls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kay.
I used to have really long hair, and then when I went in to be an electrician and I started this apprenticeship, I cut my hair right before. And I got asked, "Did you want to just look like the guys? Is that why you cut your hair?" And I learned that it was because I didn't want to get epoxy in it because we did a lot of
Oh,
work, and it would be like,
yeah.
if you had long hair in construction, it was either that you were always pulling it back or whatever, and you didn't. So I thought that was an interesting question back then, and it feels like it's an interesting question now. And I dyed my hair blue, so I know that hair can be a really an an intro to or a blockage between people. Like I get a lot of looks and I forget I have blue hair. And I said as part of this process, I'll be shaving this off at some point. So I'm planning on getting a buzz cut. I just don't know. And I was
Okay.
inspired by my daughter because she got a buzz cut.
Aw.
She doesn't like to be touched. So, and she doesn't
Yeah.
like it, but so I love it when she does my hair because she'll touch me for hours and I love
Yeah.
it. So I'm into to having long hair and blue hair because she's also into having colored hair on my head. So I love it.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I would guess that somebody who cuts their hair on a whim, like AJ was talking about, just in a moment, like Spears, or somebody who plans to cut their hair or whatever. I think how people treat you and your hair is a really interesting social
Yeah.
social study because I guess what I
Mhm.
myself and I had to do this with my daughter because I wanted to touch her head all the time, but I got to touch it a couple times. Hey, can I touch your hair? And she'd say yes, but not for very long. And so I
Yeah.
would, and it was so soft. I imagine that for people that have their hair shaved, that there's this intrigue that comes their way that they have to do,
Mhm.
kind of like with blue hair, but not so much. Blue hair,
Mhm.
but I imagine that if you could put yourself in that person's shoes of what it's like to have their head shaved as a woman, because it's not very common, but more and more you see
Mhm.
it, it's really it stands out,
Yeah, it does.
You
when
have to be willing to stand out for
Yeah.
sure.
and I
Yeah.
think that you have to be pretty confident to be able
Mhm.
and not be afraid of what's going to be underneath. Like AJ, you said you had a scar. That holds me. wonder what's on my head that I don't know about, you
So,
know?
Yeah.
and
Or
it's funny that you mentioned that because, so with the gender questioning, again, like, so when I did so part of my stand-up routine had the gender jokes, but it didn't fit when I had to go from a 5-minute to a 3-minute set, and that's
Mhm.
fine. Um, so when I buzzed the hair in the biotech job, there was a woman colleague who was an out lesbian. She was in a
Mm.
relationship, and she represented someone that had said this to me for many years, which was, "My gaydar is all sorts of confused about you, and now you're
Oh,
showing
wow.
up with buzzed hair. Are you sure you're not gay?" And so the
Oh,
joke in the stand-up was, I don't need to be gay to have a short haircut. The last time
right.
I did it was because it was a windy day. And it was literally, I walked outside, my hair was like in an in-between stage, and it was
Yeah.
windy and it like blew in my face. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't want to deal with this shit. And I
Yeah.
went home and I like there
yeah,
for me it was an
Mhm.
empowering moment of like, there are solutions here for
Mhm.
not having to feel this that don't
Yeah.
involve dolling up my hair. I could literally just get rid of it. And free
yeah.
will says like that's an easy solution. Why wouldn't I choose that?
I did that in my 20s. I did, and it was the same experience where, people just assume that you're lesbian.
Mm,
And I'm like, okay, let me put on lashes and earrings and makeup because, you know, um, everybody thinks that you have to fit a standard. And, no one assumes that you're just confident in in your own skin and that you can do what the F you want. But yeah, I had a lot of the same, like, looks and people acting funny. It was, I'm trying to remember. It was, how did because it was so short. Oh, I think that I just like, instead of letting it stand up, I wore mine, I think like brushed down or something. But it was so close to my head. Like you can barely fit like curling iron barrels, the tiny ones barely in there. And as it started growing out, then I started to like put the curls in it to look a little bit more feminine. But it was the same thing. I just at the time I wanted to start my hair fresh,
mhm.
from like a fresher, healthier state.
Yeah,
And that was how I went about it.
yeah.
Didn't care.
Because it grows out. That's the thing about
Yeah,
I mean, you think about people who go through chemotherapy and sometimes they'll cut their hair off, right? Like
yeah,
they'll ceremoniously shave their head before any of the treatments start, and then their hair grows back, right?
yeah.
So it's kind of probably a mixed message where people don't quite understand, now is that person sick or
Right. They
Yeah.
do ask
I
that.
had someone say when I was complete because I kept it bicked for like a week. She was like,
Yeah,
"Bald is beautiful," and it was her way of like supporting me on what she thought was my
complimenting.
journey.
yeah.
Yeah. I think too, another thing that is interesting to me is like what Ben Chat is saying about his aunt, how she also became a serious and cold kind of person after the shave.
Mhm.
I kind of want to touch on that a little because AJ brought out some things in her YouTube video. Again, you guys go watch her latest YouTube video. Um, she brought out some things about, our thoughts and the fact that
Yeah.
people know what you're thinking. And
Yeah.
not everybody acknowledges the whole like psychic thing, but it's whatever you want to call it. It's still the same.
Yeah.
And some people are just more in tune
Yeah.
with what's going on internally than
Mhm.
others are. So some people can literally call it like they see it. And they may even call it that. But like in our world of woo woo, we call it, you know, psychic, sometimes even deliberate telepathy, But like when you have a situation where your head is shaved or there's something else that's drawing attention to you, I've been telling people about like what it feels like. Have you guys ever heard me talk about like, like if you're in a grocery store and someone is behind you and they can literally, you can feel there's a like a feeling of like just quieting thoughts because you know that they can read your mind, but you don't really know. But you're uncomfortable with someone directly behind you. And that's why. And you'll have all these thoughts like, that person is, I wonder if they're looking at me or if they're, like you can just feel, it's almost like you can feel their eyes beaming at the back of your head.
Mhm.
And like that's just one way that I use to help people to appreciate that you can literally feel when others are thinking about you.
Mhm.
Oh,
So in
totally.
situations like this, right? In situations like that, and he's saying something else too. I'm sorry, Ben.
Also,
Sheila
thank you for
and dress
commenting,
and
Ben.
stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like from a skirt and high heels to maxi dress and combat boots and a black jacket.
Maybe that reflected, I mean, to the thought that's coming through for me is someone leaving marriage.
Yeah.
And if it's an aunt, I'm going to infer a certain age range. So think about, I mean, I'm 36 and
Mhm.
feel like I'm on the older part, and you ladies
Mhm.
as well, like of the
Mhm.
youngest generation of like awareness of like, I do what I want. Uh, and people that are older than that, most of them have entered like adulthood assuming that certain steps look certain ways. And maybe she assumed that adulthood meant getting married or that being married meant a
Mhm.
certain thing. And so this is like her maybe kind of refreshing the slate of like, I could literally be whomever I want to be
Mhm.
and be somebody independent of this partner that I'm leaving.
I
Yeah.
remember wearing steel-toed boots and feeling like nobody's gonna mess with me in these.
Mhm.
And I would even like, instead of talking in a soft voice, I would lower my voice and I would talk toughly so that I
Mhm.
wouldn't get attention from people that that just were tiring, like
Yeah.
attention that, like maybe if she's going through a divorce, she's at that point where she's like, just leave me the F alone. And so
Mhm.
I, I remember using clothes and voice and attitude to give me space from men specifically.
Mhm.
It's really funny that we're talking about space because
Mhm.
this is so funny and it goes to so many things. I had After my first year in the PhD program, I had a male
Mhm.
and a female mentor. They were co-mentoring me and they were like best friends. It was kind of a weird dynamic to agree to.
Mhm.
She gave me what I thought was going to be an annual performance review, and I think that was just the best way she could think of to bring something up to me.
Mhm.
Um, and what she was bringing up to me, I'm now piecing together, was probably other faculty members saying some version of, she looks unapproachable in the hallway.
Mm.
And it was, one of those, like, it
Mhm.
wasn't even like the resting bitch face. It was like some
Yeah.
version of, like looking approachable or looking professional or something like that. And I was
Yeah.
like, do you not realize that I put that face on purpose so that people don't like get in my space? Like I don't,
Yeah.
and for me, it wasn't, here's what it is, okay? Because you
Mhm.
ladies know that I'm a very open and loving individual and
Yeah.
I'm happy to connect.
Mhm.
Um, what will still never work for me is someone doing like a fake
Yeah.
pleasantry
Mhm.
that is like
Yeah.
look, I get that people are introverts. I get that
Mhm.
empty conversations for some people are a safety mechanism to build safe space to get to the point of intimate, real conversations. But if
Mhm.
you're gonna ask me a pleasantry question, I'm gonna answer it in an authentic way.
Yep.
That means that if I'm trying to get from point A to point B, I'm gonna shut that door of like real conversation if I don't have the time or the space to show up as a real person. I'm not gonna say, "Oh, great." Like, how does it feel to you ladies when someone walks past you and says, "Hey, how's it going?" and they don't even stop?
Yeah.
Like,
No words.
no
Yeah.
words. If I say, "Oh, great," I feel icky and gross and like,
Yeah.
ugh. Like, even if
Yeah.
I'm in a great mood like that, like putting
Yeah.
that on is like, ugh.
Yeah. Do you really want to know? And because it's like, obviously your energy is telling me it's just a pleasantry.
Mm-hmm.
It's telling me that you don't even want to know.
I love you all the same. Carry on. Carry on.
My can I just keep telling stories?
Yes, please do.
So I played this game for a really long time that I think is why I'm good at improv. Like, I didn't realize it was a game. I would play a game of answering people's pleasantry questions in a fake way. When, when they would not people I would regularly see, like business associates, because I think like spinning a web of lies that has to keep going is not a good idea. But like,
Right.
let's say people in the middle of a store,
Yeah.
especially once I had a child,
Yeah.
and they would come up and ask her name, or like sometimes they would come up and say, "Oh, what age?" You know, like not even like hello, like this kind
Right.
of assumption that my information is like free data,
Yeah.
and me knowing that they're not going to encode it. And so I just would make up names. I would just, how straight faced can I lie about this? And
Oh my God.
it was really funny because my boss at the biotech was Dutch, and so he grew up in the Netherlands with a very different culture. And he was a man, and he was 6'7". So
Oh my
like in
God.
terms of people imposing on his space, that was like not a thing that happened.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we took a trip from Boston to Portland, and we
Mhm.
rode in the Uber together to the
Yeah.
hotel. And the Uber driver had like a pre-planned monologue of his pains in his life and the housing
Mhm.
crisis and all this. And it like the very, very end of his like list of grievances had to do with the fact that tech was the reason that housing had become unaffordable in Portland, and that he and his family were struggling like further out. And so as we're pulling up into the like hotel, he's like, "So what do you guys do?" And before my boss could answer, I was like, "We're doctors. We're here for a conference." My boss was like, "Why did you lie?" I'm like, "A, this dude just complained about tech. Do you really want to say that we're in tech? B,
Yeah.
like, we only have 10 seconds to answer before we never see this man again.
Right.
C, he's not entitled to my truth because he has
Yeah.
asked."
Yes.
Like, but this man, my boss, had never encountered like that practice of having to put up like a deflection boundary.
Yeah.
Of like, I'll interact with you energetically because I see that you're asking to interact with me energetically, but I still
Mhm.
get to have a boundary of how I show up to that interaction. And
Mhm.
I told my daughters, like, when a stranger asks your name, you don't have to give them your real
Right.
name. And it's so empowering for them. Just
Mhm.
because someone asks doesn't mean that they're entitled.
Mhm.
Totally way to operate than I was raised.
Yeah, you said it was different?
Yeah, that way of operating is totally different than how you're raised, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I was programmed to speak when spoken to, like July
Yeah.
gave me that.
Yep.
To answer questions directly, and I don't know, I've never played that game before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely still do it in my mind.
Yeah. My daughter says I should do it. Like when people ask the name of your dog, because we're training this service dog, when you
Yeah.
ask her name, don't tell them her name. And I'm like, that's okay.
Huh.
It's just like this trust isn't there automatically.
Yep.
It makes me go back to the woman that Ben asked about that had
Mhm.
shaved hair. Like maybe she's lost trust in people,
Mm.
and AJ, like you didn't really want to have that conversation with that guy because obviously he already made it clear he didn't trust. He ruined his life, you know. So just those connections, we just choose to make them or not make them based on how we're feeling in that moment.
Well, and
Mhm.
like now that I mean, that was me 3 years ago, right? We're in a very different
Mhm.
space now.
Yeah.
We know and appreciate that um like the words are just the surface structure. Like
Yeah.
in linguistics, they'll talk about surface structure of like what were the exact words of the sentence. And then there's like the deep meaning of like, okay, you could have three different sentences that all have the same deep meaning,
Hmm.
right? We're operating now from an energy space where it's almost like listening with your heart. And I bet you ladies are really good at listening with your heart, where you're not even listening to what the person is saying, you're listening to
Mhm.
like the underlying need.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. We're all energy readers. We all do it.
Hmm.
And so it's less about like
Mhm.
Let me robotically give this surface answer. Like,
Mhm.
to me, it almost I get bored with conversations that aren't
Mhm.
intellectually engaging,
Mhm.
which is why I love talking to ladies because it's
Yeah.
always different perspectives. And so I think that's also what triggers me about, like, surface conversations is that it's just, like, do you really want me to be this automaton that's gonna answer the same 3 things every day when we cross paths on the way to get coffee in the morning?
Yeah.
And so lying is a way to at least engage myself
Yeah.
regardless of how the other person shows up. And
To
it's,
keep
like,
yourself
not a
entertained.
yeah, and it's always done in a very like, you ladies know that I'm not a liar when things matter,
Right. No.
and I think that it's very because those are the moments that don't matter.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm playful, I'm establishing a better energetic connection with someone if I'm lying from a playful space
Yeah.
than if my mind
Fun
is checked out.
sarcasm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Caution that just came through me was you never know which of those connections are sent here as a blind connection for you energetically, like, and just
Mhm.
like we don't know the hidden soldiers, whatever that looks like, like
Mhm.
that seem like the bum on the corner, and they're asking,
Mhm.
and you're like, I'm tired of this. Or if you just stop and talk to them and have that connection, were they put in your path for a reason? I guess that was the
Mhm.
message that just came through me is
Hmm.
there may be hidden angels out there.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I don't
That
know.
sounds like a good topic for our next one.
Yeah.
Because
So
I'm telling you, if we start that, we'll go on and on and on.
I told you guys about this the last time, a couple times before, when we met, that somebody
Mhm.
was really frustrated and they were talking to me and they were actually yelling at me about where I was walking and how I wasn't supposed to be there. And they didn't realize I was staying with a friend. And I was
Mhm.
supposed to say, according to my friend, I'm at Dave's. And I was like, the man was so incredibly frustrated and angry and wanted to just vent at me that I felt
Mhm.
like he had this vortex of energy coming out of his mouth towards me. And I was just like
Yeah.
deflecting it with a shield. And I was just supposed to be there so that he could learn that he doesn't always know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any better, but a lot of times I find myself in alignment in silence. Do you guys find
Yeah.
where you're
I
just,
noticed that about you a
well,
long time ago, right, AJ? Can you tell? Yeah. That's Kay's version of sarcasm, whereas ours is different.
I just stand there and just go,
Yeah.
just,
I
yeah.
noticed it.
Kay's version of performing is not performing. Like, I feel like sarcasm to me is such a performance thing. Like, when July, you mentioned, to circle back to the topic of, like, your thoughts are out there for people to know.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, and I say this in the other video, I
Yeah.
am very good at sensing when someone is watching me,
Yeah.
and I would use that my ego would use that to my advantage, be like, "I don't even have to turn around to know they're looking at
Yeah.
me, so I'm gonna just pretend to be natural so they can
Yeah.
observe me doing this thing I want them to observe me doing."
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Like,
love when you talked about that in your video.
anyone who's in the corner of the room thinking like they're getting away with being a secret of, like, observing someone, like, they
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Or
And
thinking about them, like July said, they know.
yeah.
You know.
No, so if you don't wanna be confronted with, like, staring like, here's, like, a good litmus test for responsibility with thoughts, right? If you don't wanna be standing right in front of them, having them read your mind,
Yeah.
then you better get your, like,
Well,
reading it out loud to you
Yeah. And
about
the
them.
thing about it is like it doesn't like with people like us. And I do I want to say this? Let me. So with people like us, even more so, you don't even have to be in the same room. You can be across the earth. You can be, you know what I mean? And so,
mhm.
yeah, like if we decided to tap in, our higher selves lets us know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Our higher selves always lets us know. I think I said it in one video where it's like it's almost like a file.
Oh,
Mhm.
that was a
They're like little
beautiful
files,
analogy.
right?
Can you say that again? Because I loved hearing
Sure.
that.
It's like a little file, and the file goes out there into the 4D and it floats around and it stays there. And that person's higher self sees it automatically.
Mhm.
The question is, when is the 3D version going to turn their attention to it?
Mhm.
And it's a, you
It's
never know.
like, when you see orbs in a room sometimes, or a little fuzz that flies off catches your eye. It's
Yeah.
like we end up being those little particles in that
Yeah.
moment where the conversation is happening and we hear it.
I love that.
And then you're like, wait a second. I didn't hear them say that, but I heard
Yeah.
them. And then they said that.
Yeah.
And then it's like there's no unknowing after that fact. So yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
We choose to tap in. Like if
Mhm.
I think of somebody and tap into them, I can hear
Mhm.
what they're saying.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? It's cool, but
It is, but
there
I want to give a disclaimer too. Like, we don't choose that the majority of the time.
Mhm.
Like, I had someone ask me, was that post about me? And I said, no, it wasn't. But now you've
Come to
turned my
think of it,
attention to you.
let me go see why you're asking that.
My and
And we don't turn it on. Like, it's not, that's not how we live our lives. Like, we're not even programmed that way. We're just like everybody else, where we go along naturally, just, along with the day. Who cares? Like, to me, you have to be like an IT person who is extremely obnoxious and nosy, and who'll like break into your computer or your phone, right? Like those kind of people. But that's not what it's like for people like us. Like, we don't use that to our advantage at all. Like, we're not even interested.
Mm-mm.
But like when it comes to either utilizing our abilities for help or services or whatever, we tap in. And then the only other thing that makes you really tap in is when, if you're having interaction with someone, like I mentioned before, that matters, when it
Mhm.
matters. And this is just all of our natural states, everyone on the face of the earth.
Mhm.
When you start to have certain, like, I'll call them like little spidey senses that start tingling, then it makes you want to read into something, right? Like, okay, let me just kind of like focus and see, like, what are the possibilities here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But really, you're picking up on your intuition.
And because we operate in a highest good of all, and
Hmm.
I like how you said that the higher self sees it immediately,
Hmm.
and then kind of like it's like a very need to know basis, right? Like, because the ego, like let's just say it, like the ego and with the Akasha and the Akashic records, there is infinite knowledge there. But if it's being
Hmm.
approached from I must know this complete information about me, like
Right.
it's endless, it's bottomless, that's a hole that's a need that can't be met.
Hmm.
But when you lean into the heart of like, I will be told when it's time for me to know,
Yeah.
then it also releases the need to like have the list of follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Um, and to make it further relatable for people, and especially for the women on this call, and I
Hmm.
know men as well, but culturally we don't talk about this with men.
Hmm.
You know what this feels like when you get a gut feeling of lack of safety about somebody.
Yes.
I think that
Mhm.
there's the goosebumps because
Mhm.
that's the most survival driven need, to
Mhm.
know when someone is not safe for you. So that would
Yeah.
be the instance, someone you're dating, someone you're gonna get in the car with, someone, at work, a
Mhm.
family member, a family friend, a neighbor, where it's just, "Oh, I don't like that person, something
Mhm.
about that person, I don't wanna be around them." And now
Yep.
that can be multiple fold. Some of that at the purest level is a safety thing, and then the deeper level is, what is that person showing you about you that you don't like seeing about yourself?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it comes across a lot with that gut, like, we call it the gut feeling, you
Mhm.
know, well, I don't know what it is about that person. I couldn't tell you why. I've tried to logically explain it. There's nothing that
Right.
they've done that should
Right.
make me feel this way. The reason that you feel that way is because of the energy and the thoughts they've had about you. And
Yeah.
you're being protected by being gifted that knowledge in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a post that's been going around. Have you ladies seen it where it's like, your gut doesn't lie?
I've seen versions of that.
Yeah, it's not lying to you. I love how she said, I can't prove it, like here in the 3D world or logically, right? But yeah, my gut, my chakra is telling me that I'm not safe in
Yeah.
this space.
Well, they've shown studies where your chakra, or say, if you don't say chakra, you say brain, and
Mhm.
are connected. So like your solar plexus and your third eye, they're connected to one another.
Mhm.
So your brain and your gut are talking, and your brain might pick up some electromagnetic something, in your environment, and your gut might process it and say, oh yeah. So our bodies are processing things much faster than we can even imagine. And so listening to that, where you don't feel safe, the next question is, how can I get myself to a safe place?
Yeah,
Mhm.
great
What's
follow-up.
you to be safe? And then you'll hear the answer.
Mhm.
Turn
Yes.
left, you know.
And
Get
it'll be something you haven't thought of.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you ladies,
Mhm.
it came up earlier, because I've had this happen a couple times, and it happened most recently, only a few days ago.
Okay.
When you are feeling, so to switch from unsafe to safe, when you're feeling
Mhm.
safe with someone
Mhm.
and there is a interpersonal interaction, so you're making eye contact, you're having a conversation. Have you ever, well, so I'll tell you what has happened to me, and I'd like to hear your
Mhm.
versions of if things like this have happened to you.
Okay.
With a couple different individuals in multiple times when I have felt that connection, and I am specifically in a receiving space, so they're giving me feedback about me, loving feedback, or I'm receiving gratitude from them. I will find myself different versions of my face twitching, or unable to hold the smile, kind of like in this
Yeah.
not like laughter, but just like it feels uncomfortable here, it feels uncomfortable here, or more energetically, it'll be like a buzzing and like a not a heat, but like a high frequency vibration, like physically on my face. Um,
Mhm.
Curious if you ladies have experienced anything like that ever in those situations.
You said in a situation where they're like complimenting you?
So it would be actually both instances I'm thinking of are the people from the other video where I'm talking about having that fixation connection. So these are people
Oh.
where we have really great eye contact. There has already been an establishment of safety and vulnerability and heart space emotion and yes, sexual attraction or sexual energy on some level.
Mhm.
And from that space, they are giving a very genuine, heartfelt, probably channeled love to me in the form of either expressing like gratitude or about how I've acted towards them or positive feedback. In July,
Yeah,
you've got a smirk, so I love
I
to.
know. Yeah, I don't have a poker face.
I don't have a
So
poke-
I do feel that when I feel exactly everything that you said, the vibrations, everything. Yeah, I do. I can relate. I love it. I'm a ham.
Mm, mm,
I don't even try to deny it.
Yeah.
No, but it just, I mean, it feels good. It was intended to. We were created in a way that it should feel good because it's actually coming from the higher frequency, the higher source, creator, God, whatever you want to call it. When it comes from there, you can't help but feel all warm and tingly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then just because we're all so steeped in love, genuine, unconditional love, you can't help but react, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'm extra. But I do. I love that. I love that point that you brought out because yeah, it I've been noticing a lot of things lately,
Yeah.
physically
mm.
and my interactions with people. So yeah, some things that just, I can't even talk about. But it's funny because I even asked my son, I think I told you ladies about this before. I asked him, has he ever noticed when his intuition is telling him something? He didn't even bat an eye. He told me right off that he gets a feeling in his nose. His nose tells him. And I'm like, whoa, like he was like, he answered like that. I
So
don't think I would have been able to do that when I was younger. I didn't think I knew, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get sensations all over my body
Yeah.
when I'm having interactions with people. And
Mhm.
some my body will do things without me knowing it ahead of
Right.
time. Like
Right.
the most recent one was, listening to this person talk and then just standing up.
Mm.
All of a sudden they said, wait, something shifted. And I'm like, hell yeah, something shifted. My body just stood up.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Knowing that, okay, so it's time to go,
Yeah.
like, I think I'm a lot more laid back because I've been programmed to be very accepting and very, willing to be whatever anybody needed me to be. And
Mhm.
now I'm learning that my spiritual essence is a lot stronger, and it gives me
Mhm.
a lot more, like tingling on the end of my nose, a
Mhm.
ear, standing up out of a chair all of a sudden, like, okay, guess
That is hilarious.
so I think I'm more open to those body messages, and
Yeah.
they make me laugh, and it's probably not the right timing, why are you laughing? We're having a serious conversation.
Right.
I guess
I'm laughing with my guides. No.
we're not conversation anymore, apparently. So I'll see you later.
Yeah.
I love that July mentioned that she doesn't look at all that sweat. That's all the energy coming in.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about that in improv, because in improv, like, you get like the theater smells like sweat. And it's like, that's like, it's salty liquid. It's literally
Yeah.
a conduit for like electrical flow. So
Yeah.
but July, I love that you said that you don't have a good poker face, because
Yeah.
I don't either. My
Yeah.
husband has informed me. And like all through like I would be the person that professors would say, like, I love having you in the audience because it's very clear when I'm saying something that's
Yeah.
not making sense. And but that is like part and parcel. That's like exactly what it means to be in alignment, is like,
Yeah.
why do I need a poker face? Like,
Right.
if someone's pissing me off, I'm gonna make
Yeah.
it known. And if it's my face is the only way I'm showing it, like,
Yeah. Without having to say something that you don't want to say.
yeah, I
I
think.
like
And
to, oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, that's all. I like that you said that.
When Kay said that her body reacts, I think that's a good um that's like a nice little segue into what it's like to tap into your senses, your
Mhm.
sixth senses, even though they're still dealing with your five senses. Sometimes you'll get like a little ringing in your ear, right? Or a song or something that comes.
Mhm.
And people don't relate that to their intuition, but that's your intuition speaking to you, right? Your higher power speaking to you.
Mhm.
Same thing with like I noticed the other day when I was doing readings. So I know you ladies can relate to this. When you're doing a reading or a healing, you
Mhm.
begin to embody the other person. And so then your body starts to speak to you through them.
Mhm.
So this, my eyes started getting watery, and the same feeling that we get when we do our guided meditations together. And I was like, oh my gosh, this lady is a seer. She's more than just a seer into the future, but she can literally see things,
Mhm.
and it's like once you really start to like get used to all of the different ways that the body communicates with
Mhm.
us, it really becomes easier to start to tap into what we call the genius playground,
Mhm.
because
Being
we all have it.
receptive to it. Yeah, the messages that we get come from all different ways of receiving. We're just open to receiving, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
See, and that is so key because there are so many people who aren't open for various reasons. A lot of people fear it. And
Mhm.
then there are others who feel that it's, sacrilegious.
Or they'll argue, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't match like their religion or what they were taught. And maybe they're not
Hmm.
that religion anymore, but they'll be like, this can't be possible.
Right.
Yeah. And I think we're in that mindset, well, anything's possible. Like
Hmm.
the message I got was through this healing that I did, and it was bugs. And I
Mm.
started listening to bugs. And so the other day I had this grasshopper right of my car while I'm going to work. And it would turn before I was going to make that turn. And then it would turn before I was making the next turn. And I was like, I
Wow.
That's cool.
it was
It
super.
is.
But bugs, even when you hear a message, like I would say, play with it a little bit, have some fun,
Yeah.
see where it goes, where it takes you. If
Yeah.
Yeah.
be a message, then just play with it for a while and see, you know.
Right. I
See
think
about
this will be good for next week, ladies. What do you think? Maybe we can talk a little bit more about opening people's eyes to things that they're
Yeah.
already used to and
Yeah.
familiarizing them with that. So,
yeah,
but we've been on for
an hour.
an hour and a half. Yeah. But the conversation was great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Yeah. Thank
for
you.
coming
Thank
on. So thanks everybody for participating and to the future watchers of the,
Yeah.
the video.
And I really appreciate your comments. I was thrown because I was not expecting comments, so I'll be more mindful of that in the next ones, but it went the way it went.
Yeah, so we'll do that again and we'll get a chance to get more feedback. So,
Yeah.
all right, ladies. Well, you guys have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And to the rest of you out there, we love you so much.
Love
Love
you. Thank you.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.